Imagine this. You meet someone who seems magnetic. They look you in the eye, smile with perfect timing, and make you feel like the most important person in the room. At first, it feels intoxicating, like destiny. But weeks later, you start doubting yourself. You feel smaller, uncertain, and trapped in a web you never saw being spun. That's not love. That's not friendship. That's dark psychology in action, the hidden playbook of narcissists and sociopaths. For centuries, these personalities have shaped history, destroyed empires, and devastated lives not through brute strength, but through manipulation. Tonight, we unravel their tactics one by one. And as we do, you might start recognizing them in people you know. Before we dive into tactics, we must understand the predator's mindset. Narcissists and sociopaths don't see relationships as connections. They see them as transactions. Each person is a resource. A source of admiration, validation, money, power, or entertainment. They build their world like chess masters strategically, calculating every move, while their victims don't even realize they're playing a game. The first move is almost always the same: love bombing. The narcissist floods you with attention, endless compliments, constant texts, grand promises. They study you, mirror your interests, and craft a version of themselves that feels like your perfect match. But it's not real. It's bait. They're not loving you, but they're hooking you. Once you're addicted to the dopamine rush of their approval, the stage is set for the trap. Then comes the twist. Gaslighting, the psychological warping of your reality. They deny things you clearly saw, twist conversations to make you question your memory, and accuse you of overreacting. It's death by 1,000 cuts. Slowly, you begin to trust them more than your own mind. That's the point. Once you doubt yourself, they don't need chains to control you. Your mind becomes the cage. But the most sinister trick is intermittent reinforcement. The same tactic casinos use to keep gamblers hooked. They mix cruelty with random bursts of affection, just enough kindness to keep you hoping, just enough abuse to keep you desperate. This unpredictability triggers a chemical addiction in the brain, making victims chase the manipulator's approval like oxygen. It's not love, it's conditioning. And here's the chilling truth. Once you recognize these tactics, you can't unsee them. History's most infamous leaders, cult founders, even con artists on Wall Street, many of them use the same psychological blueprint. This isn't just personal, it's societal. And in part 2, we'll pull back the curtain, further revealing how these tactics escalate into full control, and why some people never escape. The first stage was seduction, an intoxicating performance of charm, intensity, and devotion. But now the mask begins to slip. Once the narcissist or sociopath feels their victim is securely hooked, the second stage begins: devaluation. It's a slow erosion, compliments fade into criticisms. Affection transforms into withdrawal. The victim who once felt like a star in the spotlight now struggles in the dark, begging for scraps of the approval that once flowed so freely. One of the cruelest tactics is triangulation. The manipulator introduces a third person, an ex, a friend, even a stranger, into the narrative. Suddenly, the victim is compared, belittled, and made to feel replaceable. It's not about the other person, it's about power. By sparking jealousy and insecurity, the narcissist positions themselves as the prize to be fought for while the victim grows desperate to win back. Tension. Next comes projection. The narcissist accuses their victim of the very things they are guilty of: lying, cheating, manipulating. It's psychological smoke and mirrors. By turning the tables, they confuse the victim and force them into a defensive position. The manipulator doesn't need to prove innocence because suddenly, the victim is too busy proving theirs. Then comes silence, the deadliest weapon in their arsenal. They vanish for hours, days, sometimes weeks, without explanation. Every unanswered message becomes a wound. Every ignored call becomes an accusation. This silent treatment is designed to punish, to destabilize, and to remind the victim who truly controls the emotional thermostat of the relationship. At this stage, the victim feels trapped in a cycle of hope and despair. They remember the intoxicating days of love bombing. They believe if they just try harder, they can bring that version of the person back. But here's the brutal reality. That person never existed. The perfect partner was a mask, a role, a strategy. And the victim is no longer relating to a person, they're relating to a manipulator's carefully crafted performance. But the danger doesn't end here. Because once the victim is broken down, once they're filled with doubt and fear, the manipulator moves into their most powerful stage, total control. In Part 3, we'll explore how narcissists and sociopaths enforce dominance, create dependency, and trap their victims in relationships that feel impossible to escape. By now, the victim is confused, exhausted, and desperate to restore the harmony that once felt so real. But this is exactly where the narcissist or sociopath wants them caught, in a cycle of control. The manipulator begins weaving a deeper trap, not just by tearing their target down, but by making them dependent. Every cruelty is paired with false redemption. Every punishment is followed by a breadcrumb of affection. It's a cycle designed not to end, but to tighten. One of the cruelest illusions is future faking. The manipulator paints glowing pictures of the future promises of marriage. Success, happiness dreams carefully designed to keep the victim invested, but the future never arrives. It's bait on a string, keeping the victim chasing, hoping, believing the pain is temporary. In reality, the promise is the leash. The manipulator knows that outside voices are dangerous. Friends and family might see through the facade. So, they begin the process of isolation. It starts subtly. They don't really care about you. They're jealous of what we have. Over time, the victim's support network shrinks until the manipulator is the only voice left. And when that happens, the victim has nowhere else to turn. Dependency isn't just emotional, it's often financial. Some manipulators deliberately sabotage careers, take control of money, or create chaos that forces the victim to rely on them for stability. The cruel paradox is this: the very person causing the pain is positioned as the only possible source of relief. It's a prison without walls. By now, the victim no longer feels like themselves. Their reality has been rewritten. Their confidence dismantled, their freedom eroded. This is not by accident. This is the architecture of controlled arc psychology working exactly as designed. But even the most powerful manipulations can't last forever, because once the victim has been used up, drained, or dares to resist, the narcissist and sociopath turn to their final act: discard and replace. In Part 4, we'll step into the darkest stage of all, where the mask is thrown away and the human cost is revealed. Every performance has an ending. For narcissists and sociopaths, that ending is the discard. When a victim is no longer useful, when admiration fades, when resources are drained, or when resistance grows, the manipulator begins the final act. But unlike a clean break, this stage is brutal. It is cold, calculated, and devastating. The victim who once felt chosen now feels abandoned, replaced, erased as if they were never valued at all. It often begins with sudden devaluation. The victim is criticized relentlessly, mocked, and made to feel worthless. What once was praised is now condemned. The cruelest part: shifts happen without warning. One day adored, the next day despised. The victim spirals, desperate to understand what went wrong. But the truth is simple: nothing went wrong. The manipulator has simply moved on emotionally, and the victim is left chasing a ghost. Then comes the replacement. New targets are quickly drawn and fresh prey to admire and adore. The narcissist parades them openly, ensuring the old victim sees what they've lost. It is not about love. It is about display. By flaunting the new, the manipulator deepens the wound of the old, reinforcing the idea that they were never truly special. But the cruelty doesn't stop at abandonment. Many manipulators launch smear campaigns, spreading lies, twisting truths, painting their victim as unstable, dangerous, or untrustworthy. This ensures that when the victim tries to speak out, they are dismissed. The manipulator protects their image, while the victim is left isolated, discredited, and silenced. The discard leaves victims shattered, Many feel as if they've been erased, like their memories were staged, their love fabricated, their entire relationship an illusion. And perhaps the darkest truth is this: to the narcissist or sociopath, it was an illusion, a role they played until it no longer served them. Then, like a mask, it was thrown aside. But for many victims, the discard isn't the end, because manipulative personalities have a way of circling back, testing boundaries, seeking more control, or simply feeding their ego. This return is called the Hoover, named after the vacuum cleaner. It's the manipulator's attempt to suck a victim back into the cycle. And in Part 5, we'll expose how the Hoover works, why so many victims fall for it, and what it takes to finally break free. The discard may feel like the end, but for many victims, it's only the intermission. Because narcissists and sociopaths often return, sometimes weeks later, sometimes years. This is the Hoover, a chilling term for when the manipulator tries to suck their victim back into the cycle. The reason is simple: control. To them, victims aren't people, they're resources. And resources, no matter how broken, can always be reused. The first move of the Hoover is often the fake apology. They come back with soft words. "I've changed. I was wrong. I can't live without you." But these aren't confessions of guilt, they're strategies. The words are designed not to heal, but to reopen the door. And when the victim, still carrying old wounds, hears what they longed for all along, many step back inside. Another Hoover strategy is role reversal. The manipulator paints themselves as the true victim, claiming they were misunderstood, mistreated, or even abandoned. This taps into empathy, especially from those who care deeply. The victim, already conditioned to doubt themselves, may feel guilt. And once again, the trap is reset. The manipulator may also reach for nostalgia. They remind the victim of the good times, the first kiss, the laughter, the dreams. They carefully avoid mentioning the abuse, rewriting history to make the relationship seem worth saving. But those good times were never real. They were weapons, tools of control, dressed as love. And so, many victims return. The manipulator rewards them briefly. More love bombing, more promises, more illusions. But soon enough, the cycle continues. Devaluation, control, discard. Each round leaves the victim weaker, more isolated, more broken, and the manipulator stronger, more certain of their power. This is why the Hoover is one of the most dangerous tactics. It doesn't just reopen old wounds, it convinces victims that healing was never possible. But here's the hidden truth: escape is possible. The cycle can be broken, and the first step is understanding. Because knowledge dismantles the illusion. In Part 6, the final chapter, we'll expose the psychology behind why victims stay. How to recognize the warning signs early. Most importantly, how to break free from the manipulator's grip once and for all. The manipulator's tactics are designed to make escape feel impossible. Victims are left questioning their memories, doubting their worth, and believing the abuser holds all the power. But the truth is this: control is an illusion. Once you understand the tactics, you can see the strings. And once you see the strings, you can cut them. Escaping isn't as simple as walking away. Victims often stay because of trauma bonds, a psychological attachment formed by cycles of abuse and reward. The same mechanism that keeps gamblers glued to slot machines keeps victims tied to their abusers. Fear, shame, financial dependency, and social isolation also weave invisible chains. To the outside world, escape looks easy. To the victim, it feels like climbing out of quicksand. To protect yourself, you must recognize the early signs. Overwhelming affection that feels too fast, too soon. Subtle digs disguised as jokes. Shifting blame, never taking responsibility. Friends and family being pushed away. Words never matching actions. These are not quirks. They are red flags, warning lights on the road ahead. Breaking free requires 3 steps: awareness, boundaries, and support. Awareness shatters the illusion. Boundaries create distance. Support, whether from trusted friends, professionals, or communities, replaces isolation with strength. Most importantly, victims must accept a powerful truth. You cannot change a narcissist or sociopath. Their behavior is not your fault, and their healing is not your responsibility. The only life you can save is your own. Dark psychology isn't just personal, it shapes societies. Cult leaders, corrupt politicians, con artists, all thrive on the same tactics of manipulation, deception, and control. But history also teaches us that once the truth is exposed, their power crumbles. Awareness is the greatest weapon. Education is the shield. And knowledge is the key that turns victims into survivors. Perhaps you've recognized these tactics in someone close to you. Perhaps you've felt the sting of manipulation yourself. If so, remember, survival is not weakness. It is proof of strength. Dark psychology thrives in silence, but loses its grip when exposed to the light. By understanding the game, you can refuse to play. And maybe, just maybe, you'll never look at charm, persuasion, or power the same way again.